Hey everyone. For this week we're looking at getting the pairs together and really understanding what they want to do with their research project. The week ends with them going away to turn in the final draft of their research proposal, Project 4. So these 3 days are really about getting them there. Let's start with day 12 in this video. The point of day 12 is to get students really drafting parts of their research proposal and wrapping their heads around how to make it a convincing document for an audience. So they're coming in with their 2 pieces of scholarship that they looked up, and they're going to be working with that first. Essentially, you're going to get them into their pairs or trios or whatever, and their job is to take the research that they found and take the idea, probably a general idea still, of what their research project is, and to actually try writing out the first 2 portions of the research proposal. These are both around 200 words. One is the study objectives section. This is where they're explaining what their research is for, what it's about. They're talking about their research question. And then the previous scholarship section. And this is where they're summarizing what scholars have said about their topic already, so that they can establish the need for their project, the relevance. So they should know enough to write those 2 sections. It'll be difficult for them to write it concretely, but you should push them to actually write it in sentences and paragraphs rather than bullet points. Essentially, you're giving them time to get ahead on preparing their full draft. And it'll also push you into the next discussion in a useful way. So I have in the schedule putting 45 minutes aside for that. You could break that up separately so that they're looking at the worksheet they did in response to the 2 pieces of scholarship first, and then they're drafting, or you could combine them together into just focusing on the drafting. It's up to you on how you want to structure that exactly. After that, you're having a discussion about different kinds of methodologies. So you're going to be hitting this a bit harder next time, but the next section that they write after the review of scholarship is the methods section, where they're explaining how they're going to gather their data. What I suggest you do is you put on the board a list of possible data gathering methods that they can think of. Interviewing might be the first one that comes up, or surveys might be the first one that comes up. And if they're lively, you can get them to actually pitch them and propose them. If not, then you might have to put some of them up yourself. There's a list of them in the binder, but of course you can come up with more than are listed here. The first thing that you want to do after you've got sort of a list up is to get a survey of who's planning to use which methods. The next question after that is, why this method and not this other method? What's the advantage of this method? What's it going to do for you? What kind of data is it going to produce? This is potentially a kind of free-form discussion, but a good way to do it would be for folks who have an interesting data method in mind, or multiple data methods in mind, get them to really explain why and why that fits with their project. Let the more confident people lead for talking about methodologies. Because there's going to be folks in the room who still really don't understand how they're going to gather the data, or what would be the point of gathering the data anyway. So getting the folks who have figured it out so far to model is going to be really useful there. If nothing else, they should all leave the class having thought through one data method that they weren't planning to use, and to write out on paper, if they can, in a free write, how that might add to their project, what it could contribute if they were going to include a group-based observation, which is an ethnography. Or if they were going to include a human experiment in their study. How could that work, and what might it contribute? So really get them to concretely think of an extra method that they haven't already considered here. For homework, after this, they are going away and they are coming back with an almost complete draft of their research proposal. It includes the studies objectives section, the previous scholarship section, their data gathering methods section, where they really explain in close detail how they will gather their data, and then the projected outcomes which is sort of the purpose, the things that this study is meant to accomplish. So they need to bring in all 4 of those sections next time. There is an additional section that they are not bringing in next time, which is the appendix section, which is supposed to include all of the documents that they're going to use to gather their data. Things like drafts of the surveys or lists of interview questions. They don't need that for next time. You're going to talk about that next time, and then they'll bring it for Friday. Okay, so that's it. It's really a day that's focused on student drafting and planning how the previous scholarship's going to relate to their future research.